So it's football season coming to an end. That's why MJ was doing pretty good.
Yeah, he did real good. We're proud of him.
That's so good. He got a what was the award?
He's a second team all conference at defensive tackle
That's
as a
great.
junior. And then what's crazy about it, looked at the they put all the height and weight of the kids too, and he was one of the smallest dudes on the whole all
Wow.
conference defense and offense. But for him to, and that's one thing he wish he had more of his height.
Oh,
And so if you got a couple of inches to give him, if you will, please share.
I will share it in my prayers for him to be tough. How tall are you?
I'm 5'10",
Oh,
70 inches.
okay.
Yeah,
I didn't.
yeah, I had to know because the army, they,
Oh.
like, oh, inches, huh? Yes. The army, they do height and weight all the time, and they measure us in inches.
Oh, do you get like I mean, I guess they need to know for identification purposes.
Nah,
Oh,
just physical ability to be able to withstand the rigors of combat, and so they have a certain height and weight scale,
hmm.
and you're allowed a certain amount of body fat, and that's how they measure your body fat based off your height and your weight.
What happens if you're like above or below the their required body fat?
If you are below or at the standard, you're good to go. If you are above body fat, then you get in trouble.
Trouble.
You could get kicked out the army.
Really?
Yeah, because that's how important they view it.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I didn't know that.
And for
That's
me,
strict.
I think I made weight only one time in my entire military career because I had to be 184.
Mm-hmm.
That was the required weight for me, and I weighed 184 in kindergarten. No, I'm just playing. Um, but
That's a big 5-year-old.
so so that was the only time I ever made weight. Other than that, it was always based off body fat, I think, and and then it's also based off age. So the older you get, the more weight you can weigh, and the more body fat you can have.
That's nice. That they like adjust for age.
Hmm.
Okay, so then you got in trouble a lot then.
No, I didn't get in trouble.
Oh, that's what you said. You said if you were over.
If I was overweight, but I was always under body fat.
Oh, I see. Oh, so you was lean. You was
Yeah, a
lean.
little bit, a little bit. I
Okay.
tried to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Good for you.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I got out the army, though.
I don't want you telling me. That's right.
Yeah.
Your body should look how you want your body to look.
Mm,
Was that it?
not according to Uncle Sam.
Oh.
But yeah, no. They had this a regulation called AR 600-9. So we just be running like AR 600-9 tell you to watch your waistline. And so I was
That
sing
sounds like
cadence and stuff like that.
that sounds like something our ancestors would have chanted or
Yeah, no,
yeah.
for sure. We got it. We got the juice when it comes to like those military cadence and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So
Good.
when we lead the way, it's always it's a party while you running.
I mean, you might as well make it. I don't know if enjoyable is the right word, but a way to get through it.
For sure.
A way to get through it. Um, and then I think too, as we are post-election,
Hmm.
we are some of us. I speak for me. Like we're trying to find ways to get through it, and which brings us here today. Hello, welcome everyone to MTZ Overflow Podcast. I am your host Cassaundra Thorpe, and I'm here with my forever guest, Reverend Dr. Marcus Allen,
Hey, hey.
the senior, here to talk about the sermon today. So today's sermon is we're in the sermon series Grateful Heart, Thanksgiving, and Generosity because we are in the month of November.
Hmm.
And we are in the sermon topic. sermon title, is a demonstration of thankfulness.
Right.
And as we think about overcoming, as we think about getting through, we tend to, I think, I'll say like naturally, like thank God. Like if we make it through, oh thank God I made it through that. Oh thank God I got here safely. Oh thank God that didn't happen to me. And Pastor tends to teach us. I shouldn't say like that. Pastor teaches us to praise in the midst or praise in advance.
Mm-hmm.
That we should be thanking God in advance. And here's an example of praising after. And so we're here in Exodus 15:20 through 21. So we're in the Old Testament.
Right. Good job.
Second book of the Bible.
For sure.
And can you let us know? So if you notice, we typically are in the New Testament. Pastor likes to be in the new because he's hip. And so we're back here in the Old Testament.
I've been in the Old Testament. I've been hanging out here for a while. Psalms. We've been hitting the Old Testament pretty much a lot. Let the record show. We'll go back and look at the record.
We'll go look back at the records. But I remember talking about your friend Paul a lot.
What about my friend David?
We're not bringing up David.
Huh?
We're not bringing up David today.
So where does he reside in the biblical canon?
David is in the Old Testament.
Okay. And we're often talking about David.
You keep bringing him up. Right now, we were not talking about David.
We wasn't talking about Paul neither.
What goes on in Exodus? Where are we at?
So, for those of you who are familiar with the biblical text, what is going on, children of Israel have been in captivity. They've been under bondage, under the control of Pharaoh. And God tells Moses to go and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Pharaoh refuses, and then God hardened his heart. God sends 10 plagues through the land. One of the plagues was to killing the firstborn sons. And so after that, Pharaoh said, hey, cool, get these people, get out of my land, take whatever you want with you. They take everything with them. They leave. While they're leaving, Pharaoh changes his mind and said, hey, I want you all to come back. Sends his army after them, but God covers them with a cloud in the day and fire at night, and leads them to the Red Sea. They get to the Red Sea. Mountains on both sides. Pharaoh's army behind them. Red Sea in front of them. They don't know what to do. Some even suggest we should have just stayed in Egypt rather than coming out here and dying in the wilderness. So God tells them, hey, stand still, see the salvation of the Lord. I fight this battle for you. He splits the waters. They walk across on dry ground. They get to the other side. And when all of the children of Israel made it to the other side, the waters come back together and drowns all of Pharaoh's army. And now Moses gets up and he sings a song, thanking God for what he has done. And after he finished singing his song, then our girl Miriam, she steps up and what I call starts a praise break.
And a praise break, which I think is most appropriate, because I'll say in the Black church we do have praise breaks. You gave an example in the sermon of one where it's the
right. Why you have to move your neck off and stuff like that?
I had to hit the notes right, and so I needed to avert the airway, the air coming through to be able to do that. I don't have enough control to do it just in my vocal cords, so I need to use more of my body.
That's legit. Got it.
I think so. If you've heard us talk before, you know how I feel about women in the Bible and Pastor speaking about women. And so I was so excited when he called out Miriam in this space, because I think for sure, like, she's not someone that gets talked about a lot. I'll say in churches I've been in and sermons that I've heard, Bible studies Miriam isn't isn't talked about as much. So I'm really thankful that you brought light to her, and so we can learn more about her and her role in this space. You open up just a lot about, I mean, just giving thanks of where we're at and the fact that God gave you this message. Last year to speak on this?
So it was about what's this? November, so probably about June.
So in June.
Yeah. About June, somewhere in there. June, July, August, somewhere. Because try to plan out my sermons every 90 days. So this probably was in August then. It's probably August, more so August. So about August, that's where we had this.
So I think that's amazing how God gave this to you in August, knowing what the results
Right.
were going to be, and being able to provide this word, because you could have deterred,
right,
and spoken about something else. But this, I think, to me, this word was what needed to come forth.
Yeah, the election. We were challenged by the results. I would say I was. I can't say we. Can't speak for everybody because everybody have a different political stance. But I'm pretty familiar with my context and the people within my congregation about how they felt about the election. But I wanted to make sure people had a full understanding that these results, yes, they will affect us, but God is ultimately in control. And I see people often stating on Facebook, why we keep saying God in control, because this is what I believe. He was in control Monday before the election. He was in control on Wednesday after the election. I was also I was just committed to the lesson because that I was just prayer, and I hope those of you who are listening to this, if you listen to your pastor that week, that you gave your pastor some grace, because a lot of people really didn't have the words to really articulate properly how everyone within their congregation was feeling, because there's some congregations may have been fully for the Republican candidate and still missed the mark, or some just decided not to talk about it at all. But I know within our context, it's something that we cannot just skip over because of the effects that it has on African American people when decisions are made for this country from the top. It's always going to be a negative thing. You feel me? It's always we're going to be affected by it, and the positivity is often not there. And so the intentionality on the preacher must be to speak to the context in which we're in. And I thought it wasn't necessary for us to say, hey, yes, this has happened. I listened to other preachers, gave some good sermons before, and I was like, oh, should I change my sermon? Because, I listen to different preachers on Sunday morning, Dr. William Curtis and Dr. Marcus Cosby every Sunday. And they gave some, at least Dr. Cosby didn't preach Sunday, I don't think. But Dr. Curtis gave a very inspirational message about the emotion of anger. But he also came back and said, hey, make sure you don't miss God in your anger. And so it was a week long of trying to put words together that would be inspirational to the people, but also be impactful to anyone who was listening, not just those who were feeling some way about the election. But I believe this election really did prove the character of this nation, that we're willing to allow someone who, what I feel, is not qualified over someone who was very much so qualified for the position, more than qualified, which is often what we see as African Americans. That our resumes have to be top tier, where others just have to have connections. and we saw that, but it also lit a fire in me for the intentionality of how do we be intentional of helping those around us, because we see government has not, right. African Americans have been in this country for over 400 years, right. um, Lived through slavery, come out of slavery, and we're still looked at as a threat to society when we were forced to come here, where others immigrated here or decided to come here on their own. But we're still the ones that always get the short end of the stick. So how do we be intentional as leaders in our communities to really help pull our people out of this despair? If we look at any numbers, any statistical number for the well-being of people in Dane County, African Americans falls within the worst of all the numbers: education, economics, healthcare. Um, the things we lead the most are infant mortality rates and mass incarceration. We're leading that. And so, how do we be intentional within our own confines to really help our people see a better way out? When our kids can't read, can't do math, and what hurts me the most, that no one is really sounding the alarm about the impact of education on our kids, which leads to them not being in school. And since they're not in school, they're in the streets. And since they're in the streets, they may do something that goes against the law and do a crime, and then they end up in the criminal justice system, which we see now based off the election, that people really don't care about the criminal justice system. That a man can have 34 felonies and still be the president. But I have a cousin or a brother or a sister that did a crime and can't get a job nowhere because they have to check the box. And so this election really, I think it really inspired me to be more intentional of how do we help our people economically and educationally, those two areas that I really want to focus on.
Yeah, I would say for myself, like this election, um, it's one of those ones where uh, you just like I just gave a big exhale and I was like, as a black woman, like I'm gonna take a break.
Mm-hmm.
It's to all the points that you made, just seeing how a qualified black woman with minimal blemish. I mean, there's what she did in when she was a senator, but she was abiding by the law and knowing like what the law is. Like she could be in, if she were to be president, she could change some of those laws.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then when you see like how much hate America had, like they would rather have someone who does not have the credentials, who is may not reflect all of their values, be in a position of power over a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really showed to me um, like really where America is. Like like you have like there's like some people and like you're careful in these pockets, you're careful in those pockets. But the election really showed me like, yeah, this country wants me for my energy, my creativity. They
Mm-hmm.
want me for my willingness to get things done. Like, I mean, um, Kamala was in a real tough spot. Like she was fighting from behind.
For sure.
And then to still be able to make the impact that she did, just continues to remind me of the resilience that lives within me. But then just the fact that like that's every black woman's like day to day, and
Legit.
and to and to not be able to have the relief of like, oh, we finally like broke through. It's like, well, sorry, you can't get more of me anymore. Or at least I'm taking a break.
Yeah.
Giving you all of me.
And you see, we often look at men not wanting women in charge, but there's a lot of women don't want women in charge.
I don't disagree.
You feel what I'm saying? And then not only was she a woman, but then she was a black woman, right? So both times President-elect Trump has won, it's been against a woman. And so we see some just not ready for women in leadership, and then especially not a black woman in leadership, talking about a glass ceiling being broken through. If she would have won the election, that would have been history for real. But here we are again, and so I don't believe that we just tuck tail and not do anything or say, "Oh well." But I think we remain resilient as we have always done before. We continue to work together or attempt to work together better, and looking at how do we improve. Just as we improve our corners, right? If everyone was intentional about improving where they are, it makes the whole healthy. But because if I say, hey, I'm just going to improve where I am and no one else is intentional about doing that, then we will remain the same way. But if everybody is intentional, I'm going to take care of my corner, then I think that changes things for everywhere across this country.
Yeah. It's a I like that, like taking care of your corner. So I think we can be very aware of other people's corners. Like, what's in your corner? That shouldn't be there. You should organize it like this. You should dress this way, look this way, talk to this person, date this person, blah, blah, blah. But our own corner is just, we won't take that from others, and we don't take care of our own corner. And that is so, that makes a lot of sense. That resonated for me in that moment. And then I think about, going back to the text, like, so we got Miriam, Aaron, and Moses, like taking care of their corner. And being able to do that allowed for the Israelites to be free from Pharaoh. And so as we talk about Miriam, she is she's the sister of Aaron, which, correct me, of course, I thought Aaron and Moses were brothers.
Yeah, so all of them siblings.
So all of them are siblings. Okay, so why didn't the Bible say that Miriam was also Moses' sister? Why is it just Aaron's sister? Like, what is that?
I'm not for sure. I didn't do any research on them. Probably don't have. Probably got the same mama and different daddy. No.
I could be. That was the culture.
At least they got the same daddy, different mama. That was the culture back then. That was the culture, legit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't do the research on that. I did research why was it important for them to list her as the sister of Aaron. Before we move to that, opening the sermon, staying within the theme of the month with gratitude and thankfulness. I opened the sermon just tell Black people thank you.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you look at all the laws that we have contributed in passing, it has always incorporated all minorities, right? And it has been intentional of including everybody and not just Black people, because I don't know many laws or any laws that are designated for the protection of Black people.
Specifically?
Yeah. Right? But we do know when COVID happened and they were attacking our Asian American brothers and sisters, a law was passed instantly for that. But we look at like voting rights, fair housing, we look at education, to integrate the school systems and stuff, and Black people fought for those rights. Black people died for those rights. Black people gave their all for those rights. Now everyone takes advantage or benefit from the blood, sweat, and tears that our people gave for everyone to be able to experience. But we don't see the same appreciation given towards African Americans, especially from minorities. Minorities look at us the same as if the majority would, as if we're dumb, deprived, and dangerous. You know what I
I
mean?
think that's an assimilation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what to assimilate is as close to white as you can be.
Right. And so that's why I open the sermon, saying black people, thank you, because even there are people in our congregation who's been the first black person in this position, and I know that's a huge achievement.
Yeah.
But the stress and all the pain that comes with that I think, will be difficult. And then there's people in our congregation who lived through segregation, who understand what it was, and redlining, where the south side of Madison was the only place that they were able to live on. But then now to be able to come to where we are today, and so I wanted to say it loud and proud and publicly, thank you to Black Americans for what they've done, especially for me to be able to choose where I want to go to school or go to the military, because even our service members, they would go to war, come back after World War II when they decided that they need to start the VA loan, and African Americans can even take advantage of it, even though they fought for the country.
Mm-hmm.
You feel what I mean? I'm trying not to get angry, but when you think about stuff like that, you're just aware of the inhumane treatment that we faced in this nation for many, many years. For what? What have we done to cause people to hate us in such a way that you would develop systemic laws to keep us oppressed for hundreds and hundreds of years?
I think it's out of fear of retaliation. Like, because of how we were brought to this country, how we were treated during slavery, and all of the continual the destruction that has happened to our various communities, there's a fear that if we have any level of majority or take up a large amount of space, we are going to do to our oppressors what they did to us.
Mm-hmm.
And
so we weren't taught like that.
No.
You know what I mean?
No. Like it's like I'm just like, look, man, like I'm just trying to do what I'm trying to do. You doing what you're trying to do. Like maybe we could come together and do something bigger. Like that's not how we're taught, but that is
America needs
that's what they are afraid of.
For the spirituality of African American people.
Say that again?
America needs to thank God for the spirituality of African American people. Because if we didn't have no connection to a deity beyond us, I'm pretty sure it would have been an uprising that was far greater than Nat Turner. you know what I'm saying? And just far greater, but because of our spirituality, because of Martin Luther saying nonviolence, because of those things, I think it has saved this country from a real civil war between African Americans and white people, but because of the way we was taught, the way we grew up, because of our spirituality and understanding that it's not worth it, that we still got to love those who despitefully misuse us. And there's a benefit in that. And that's not saying that we're weak. That's not saying that we are letting people control us, but they're saying that gives us the strength to control our reactions to things that's happening in this world. And I think that gives us more power, and being able to control that without violence, without hatred, or without just hurting each other. So thank you to Black people and the spirituality of our people.
Thank you, because I agree. Like if we really wanted to, that's not a threat.
You okay?
I realized how I was saying it. I was like, it's not a threat. But yeah, like the spirituality and like truly, like what we're fighting for is equality for all and access for all. It's not but people don't. There's so much of, well, if Black people have it, then no, we can't. Like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that some people will deprive themselves of benefits because it would benefit Black people
Wow.
is nuts. Nuts. All out of fear of something that because of the wrongs that they've done or
Right.
that their ancestors have done that they don't they're like I can't find that out. I think that's why a lot of our laws have been overturned or the president-elect is who they are
Mm-hmm.
to be able to keep the current majority the majority. But I don't know if any person in office is going to be able to stop that
And either side.
on either side.
And this is how I feel. We go to state capitol, city council, federal, say, hey, we need this for Black people. Once we say that, as it goes on the table, and then they group us all together and say people of color.
Mm-hmm.
You feel what I mean? Well, if we gonna say that Black people need this in order to survive, I don't know. At least I don't have the faith that any organization of government, no matter the Democrat or Republic, would sign off and make sure it happened for the betterment of Black people.
Yeah.
I don't have that faith in that. That these whatever if we put in laws to make sure Black people get funding for down payments for housing. If we say Black people get this amount of education, we tried that with affirmative action, which other people took more advantage of it than us. And then a minority individuals was the ones who was pushing against it the most. Um, if we say, hey, this is for Black people, I don't believe it'll pass. I don't have faith in people being intentional on that.
Yeah.
And that's on both sides of the aisle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's not I think that's an American piece, not necessarily like a political like perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, message. And did you want to share anything else on that?
No.
So as we think of it, and even so, like as we talked about America being ready for a woman to be in the presidential seat back in the biblical times, women were not in positions of power at all. The Bible is mainly written by men, so there's a lot of stories, or I shouldn't say stories, accounts, historical accounts that highlight men. We don't see many women in the Old Testament. We have Deborah, we have Ruth and Esther. They have their own books. They're not very long, but they're there. But then in the New Testament, that's where we get introduced to Mary Magdalene and Mary and all these other women in the Bible.
There's a lot of women in the Old Testament.
I named three. Who else?
Esther.
I said Esther.
You said Esther already?
I said Esther, Ruth, Deborah.
We're talking about books, having their own books.
Like really being like highlighted and emphasized in the Bible. That's what I'm talking about. Obviously, there's a lot of women in the Bible. There's women with the issue of blood. There's
in the Old. I'm talking about the Old Testament too. You got the widow at Zarephath with Elijah. You got Eve, the woman of mother of all creation. You got Abraham's wife. You got Lot's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got silence in the New Testament. That's what you're saying.
There's no silence. Women are not silenced at all. They're speaking loudly throughout the whole biblical text.
I know you get mad.
I'm not getting mad. I'm just trying
to
correct
y'all hear it. Y'all hear it.
I'm correcting you that there are women who are in the biblical text.
Yes. But they, outside of Deborah, they are not in leadership roles.
Miriam, we looking at her today, right?
That was my segue.
Sarah.
That was my segue.
Sarah, Abraham's wife.
What did she do? What was her lead?
Well, she was Abraham's wife.
Okay, well then I don't have what?
Yeah, what you
Yeah,
talking about? You know,
that's not.
what are you referencing to? What are you referencing to as far as leadership roles?
I'm talking about like decision making roles, like put in positions of power over men. That's what I'm talking about.
what? And you know, the times of that was patriarchal, right?
We're gonna have to run this back. You're not listening to me.
I was listening, but it was like there's only three women in the Old Testament. No,
No,
you just named three women in the Old
I
Testament.
did. I said what I said was what I said was that the Bible. I was like, this is good because the Bible is a picture. Not the time.
Yeah.
It's a patriarchy. It's women in positions of power. We
Mm-hmm.
rarely see women in positions of power
Really?
in Old and New Testament.
Right.
And I'm just giving some examples of women that were in positions of power.
Okay.
And so it's great to see.
Dang, why you being so combative and junk when we talk about women?
Because you get defensive when about women.
That's you.
No, it's you. I'm like, finally, like, we're talking about a woman, da da da, and here you come combating me instead of being like, yes, I really wanted to highlight her because you have yet to answer that question and go into that sentence.
You asking me the question? I'm waiting for you to ask me a question. Go ahead. What's your question?
Why Miriam?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
So as I was preparing for this lesson to be taught, we know again we were going back the to the theme, displaying gratitude and thankfulness, having this heart of thankfulness, and I just see her in this biblical text expressing a heart of thankfulness because of where God had brought them from. Miriam leads the way. And it really wasn't, if I'm honest, until doing research, I was seeing how much of a leader she was and how much influence that she had on not just the women, but the entire nation of people. And so I selected her because of her action that takes place after the crossover and then after the singing of Moses. So that's why I selected Miriam. Talk about how she praised and worshiped and gave God thanks for bringing him through.
Yeah. What I really like about this is when we were talking, or when you were preaching and you were talking about like that it's a family, right? Like
Yeah.
so we have Moses, Aaron, and Miriam as siblings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I assume they have more. It's just more than the three of them. But their family, like this is part of their family structure.
Mm-hmm.
Like they, as a family, came together, prayed together. They supported. They, what do they call it? Corrected as needed, and I just like to think of the fact that as Moses was being called to lead, he's like, I need my siblings to come with me. Like I need their support in order to be able to do this. And because of the society with which they were living in, and yeah, like, yeah, we're gonna follow Moses. But then you have, and then Moses puts Miriam up in front as well. Like so, Moses has Aaron there, and it's Miriam, and I could only think of the look on people's faces, men and women, about Miriam being the leader of. She's a prophetess as well as she led praise and worship. I assume that's the Will that mean us?
I don't know.
About to find out. You could just put your computer on, do not disturb though.
That's what you should have did.
Don't put that on me. Okay, I hope. Okay.
You gonna edit this?
I have to if it's muted. I think about Miriam and how people, like even her own people, were probably skeptical about the fact that she was leading them in this way. And
why would you go to that extent.
Just the society that they're in. Like, just the fact that men are leading, men are in charge, men are making the choices. And you have Moses, who's been called to be the main leader. And I would presume that Moses said, well, also I'm going to have Aaron and Miriam will also take on these roles.
God tells Moses to take Aaron with him. We don't read a record of him requiring Miriam to go, but not only is Miriam is a prophet, and these roles that they have, I wouldn't say that they selected by Moses, they were God selected.
Okay.
Right? Because
God selected through Moses. I mean,
okay.
I'm just well, the reason I say that is because it's not as if like Miriam doing this is not the first time. That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't, the way that the text reads, it is not as if this is new behavior. It is something that has been happening, and it took a while for people to accept her in this space. Because what also we don't read, because my pastor Marcus Allen taught me how to also see what the Bible's not saying, and also like think about that. The text doesn't say anything about the men rejecting it or even like the men joining in. Like the way that I would understand it is that as Moses was singing and as Moses was done, when Miriam started, the men just, yes, that is what we do. That is how we operate, and that is how we give thanks in this moment. There was no silencing her. There's no stop that. There's no taking over. Miriam led that, and the women followed, and maybe some men followed, but that's not written here in the text. But it doesn't. That's what I'm saying. Is like
good exegesis. That was a good job.
Thanks. I'm learning. I learned too.
Yeah, I think it was an amazing sight. I think it was an amazing demonstration of thankfulness. I try to use my imagination like you would with this. Seeing Moses gets out and he just begins to sing a song about what God had done, where God had brought them from, how God had brought them over. And as he sings the song, he ends the song, and then Miriam comes with just a phrase from the song. That's why I said I think it was a praise break. Because she didn't come behind them and sing the whole song. She comes and sings one stanza. And she grabs the timbrel and the dance. The timbrel is tambourine, and they begin to dance.
I meant to bring a tambourine.
Oh, you did?
I did.
God bless your heart. You have to just put it in like the note. Yeah. And so it says all the women went after her.
Yes.
All the women. And it wasn't a vote taken. It wasn't a think about it. Let's think if we should or not. It was instantaneously. Everybody went out there. So it was something that was, it wasn't rehearsed, but it was something that was familiar. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People were used to following after Miriam and doing what she was telling them to do and lead them in the right way.
Yeah, and because I had developed this relationship, this culture, this space, all Miriam had to do was make a sound. So she just had to get them started.
All right.
Which I thought was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like she's just like, it could have been a raise of the timbrel. And they said, "Okay, ladies, now let's get information."
Chill.
Chill.
No.
What?
Go ahead.
What did I say?
You good.
What did I say? One part so that's what's great about the overflow. We get the overflow. So I have pastor notes, and sometimes pastor doesn't get to all his notes. And so, one of the pieces that I really wanted you to share with the folks is about singing. Like, what does singing do?
Oh yeah, everyone knows the joy of music. I think music is a universal language. Music gives us hope. We find the right song to fit our mood or the emotion in which we're going through because it gives us help, right? And I think this was their way of showing thanksgiving. This was their way of just being grateful for where they come from. For any celebration, there's a song. For heartbreak, there's a song. For discouragement, there's a song. For you feeling defeated, there's a song. And so I think singing really, it calms us down, but it also amps us up, right? And so she says, "Sing your song unto the Lord." And so I believe if we all have a song we can sing at any moment.
What's your song? What's your go-to song?
Thank you, Lord, for all you've done.
That's a cop out.
I said a cop
That's a
out.
cop out. We were already talking about it.
That's my song.
That's not your song. I've never heard you sing that song.
Girl, please.
Never.
Dun, dun, You don't pay attention. You can ask anybody, how long you been in this church?
Apparently,
That's what I'm saying. I
enough.
thought you knew me. You do not know me.
Never.
Everybody know.
Okay, ask
Walter Hawkins, "Thank you, Lord, for all you done for me." That is my song. I've sung that every church, every pastoral anniversary, they play that song for me to sing.
I like that for you. That's good.
You didn't know that?
Did I know that was like your favorite song? Like that's the song that's in your heart? No. Have I heard you sing it? Yeah. But you also sing some other songs. There's a whole bunch down here that I've heard you sing.
Yeah, it's a whole
Every praise.
Every praise. You never heard me sing that though.
I have heard you sing it.
No.
You didn't sing the beginning.
Yeah.
You have not sang My Eyes on the Sparrow. Yes.
Trouble in My Way. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's because that's a song that I can sing in the key that helps me.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like mirrors.
I don't have a song.
Sing your song. What's your song?
I don't know who sings it, like originally. But the song, the words are like, "I may not have done all that I wanted to do, but Lord, it's been a mighty good day."
Never heard that one.
Yeah, I'll have to ask my minister of music from the church I grew up in to get the.
What kind of church was it?
Baptist.
Okay.
But one of our singers, Tonette Richardson, hey girl, she will always sing. She's a beautiful alto voice.
What's the song again?
I just know that's the chorus. She's like, is that? No, that's not it. That's a different song. It says, "I may not have done all that I wanted to do, but Lord, it's been a mighty good day. Good day. A mighty good day." So that song for me, just even the days where I'm like, oh man, I didn't get anything done, Lord, it's still been a good day.
I've never heard that
one. I'll
look that one up. Find out and send it to me on YouTube or
I'll find it somewhere. But yeah, that's a song I default to. Then so we had that. So yes, and like for me, like that song brings me back to where I was building a relationship with God for myself. So that's the church I grew up in. People who saw me like all through elementary school, high school, all of those milestones and celebrations and things like that. So it brings me back to that because I think at times we can move so quickly and move so fast and move so far that we forget where our foundation is.
For sure.
So that's fun. That song does that for me. Shout out to New Hope Baptist Church, Portland, New Hampshire.
Shout out.
Next time you're in New Hampshire, have you ever been?
Never.
So the first time you're in New Hampshire, I think you should go.
Never.
263 Beverly Hill Road, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. That's you shout out your church, I'm gonna shout out mine. Unfortunately, the pastor that was there when I was growing up, he had passed. But
Still your church.
Still my church. Still my church. Still my church. Yeah, I have learned pastor. A church is not a pastor.
That's for sure.
So yeah. The other part of overflow, and I really like this, like bringing it back and thinking about how like active praise and worship is not something that is nuanced. It's more like core to who we are as Black people.
For sure.
I don't call it Black people. African American, we Black. I'm Black. Let me say that.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody is different. I checked the Black/African American box. And so as we talk about praise and how, again, kind of like this overcoming, but like we're so creative and how we will not let our praise be silenced. So do you want to share about one, like how like where Africans learned of Christianity, and then how they used it when they were brought to this country?
Right. So we see in this text Miriam grabbing the timbrel, the women going to dance. That is something that has been a part of the African American and African tradition of how we worship and praise God, not just in silence, but because of this moment, you see the jubilee of God bringing them out. And there's been so many different occasions for us as a people where we have a reason to celebrate loudly God bringing us out. And so I would say this act of Miriam is been traditionally handed down to African American people in America, those Africans that are in America today. And so Christianity did not start with our slave masters. Some people say that Black people didn't know anything about Christianity until they made it to the shores of America with slaves. And I beg to differ with that because we see in Acts how the Ethiopian eunuch gets with Philip, and Philip gives him the gospel and converts him, and he's the treasurer to a queen, and he goes back and he has full authority to share with everyone else about Jesus Christ. I believe that Christianity, the gospel of Jesus Christ, was in Africa before it ever made it to Europe. And before it ever made it to America, Christianity was known by the Africans. And so when they came here and when they were enslaved, when they were going through that brutality of slavery, they would go to church. They would listen to the preacher, but they were restricted from worshiping God in their own way. They would be in church and still be treated as inhumane, and the same God of the Bible is used as a tool of oppression to keep them subjected under their master. And so they wouldn't allow that to control them or to neglect the strength of God. Isn't that something that they couldn't worship God how they wanted to in the church? And so they had to go to what they call the secret society, which is the bush harbors or hush harbors, where they would cut out spaces in the woods just to be able to worship God freely, how they desired to worship God. Because when they were in church with the master, and this was the creation of what we call the Black church. People will often say, well, there's no such thing as Black church or white church, but they had to create a Black church because the white church didn't want us worshiping God the way we wanted to. And so they had to create these bush harbors, these hush harbors, where they worship God secretly. And they would take pots and pans and use them as sound barriers, so the sound wouldn't go back to the house of the master, wouldn't know that they were out there worshiping. They would yell and scream, and pots so the sound wouldn't go to the house, but go back to towards the river, so they wouldn't be heard worshiping God freely, how they felt with timbrels and dancing and loud voices. And so this is not something that's unfamiliar to the African American Black church today. That's why we're loud. That's why we're so excited, because we see how far God has brought us from, and now we don't have to hide in a secret society to worship God on our own, but we can worship Him freely, openly, and holler and yell and scream, because we still got to go through weeks where we have to deal with the oppressions of this world and the pains of this world just for the color of our skin. Yes, thank God for the ability to shout as loud as we can and give God the most praise, the best praise that we have.
Yeah. So I really thank God for Miriam and
Mm-hmm.
being able to step out too, right?
Sure.
Like, she didn't stay in the crowd and just kind of own that space. She created her own space, and that is something that we continue to do. And so I encourage us, like, in our worship and in our praise and in our relationship building, like, we step out into that and be bold, and shout our praise and worship to the Lord.
Amen.
You got anything else you want to share?
I'm done. God bless you. Thanks for coming out.
Continue to check us out on our website, mtzlife.com, for more information. But until next time, stay marvelous, fabulous, and blessed. Peace.
Peace.